All right, let's jump right into this explainer and really get inside the examiner's head for your HSC Multimedia work health and safety questions. If you're gunning for those top tier marks in your short answer and extended response sections, we've got to move way past the basic idea of just being careful. We're going to completely break down the exact legislative terminology, the risk assessment frameworks, and those highly specific multimedia hazards that markers are desperately looking for. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the stakes of noncompliance, the core purpose of risk assessment, building a safe work culture, controlling multimedia hazards, and finally, wrapping up with the Band 6 formula. Let's get straight into it. Starting off with Section 1, the stakes of noncompliance, which is really the why behind workplace safety. We have to start by establishing a crucial fact. WHS is absolutely not just common sense. It's a high-stakes legal minefield. When examiners ask why a company needs to comply with safety standards so people don't get hurt, just won't cut it. They want to see that you understand the massive, overarching responsibilities resting on an employer's shoulders. Basically, a company's responsibility splits right down the middle into two catastrophic risks: criminal and financial. If an employer is actually found at fault for a workplace injury or a death, they're facing severe criminal liability and prosecution. And then you have the immense financial loss. And believe me, this isn't just some quick slap on the wrist fine. The examiners want you to explicitly lay out that an accident doesn't just hurt the individual worker. The true costs pile up incredibly fast. Think about it. On top of paying workers' comp, the company has to bleed time and money trying to replace injured staff. Suddenly, production grinds to a halt, film shoots miss their critical deadlines, and the staff that are left behind suffer this massive drop in morale and productivity. It's literally a domino-effective disaster for the business. Moving right along to Section 2, the purpose of risk assessment, where we measure the danger. So how exactly do we prevent all those disasters we just talked about? Well, we assess the risk way before it actually happens. Now, the absolute crucial point here is that you must define risk purely using two specific metrics: severity and likelihood. A risk assessment is just the structured process of finding the hazards in the workplace, so you can completely eliminate, remove, or minimize them. You're basically evaluating exactly how bad the injury could be, that's the severity part, and how often it might actually happen, that's the likelihood. Let's ground this with a super specific multimedia example pulled right from the syllabus. Picture a multimedia employer doing a risk assessment on printer toner chemicals. By identifying the toxicity hazards of these chemicals before they can actually cause harm, the employer can put controls in place. By assessing something like printer chemicals nice and early, the business actually boosts its efficiency. You get fewer injuries, way less sick leave. It totally transforms safety from this reactive scramble into a highly proactive, smart strategy. All right, Section 3, building a safe work culture. Let's look at some real workplace strategies. So, knowing the risks is great, but how do we actually cure a toxic or unsafe workplace through culture? You need to prove to the marker that safety isn't just a dusty poster hanging in the break room, it's a living, breathing part of the daily routine. To lock in those extended response marks, you've got to memorize these 3 highly actionable strategies that actively shift the culture. Number 1, establishing WHS committees. Number 2, erecting crystal clear graphical signage. And number 3, providing ongoing employee training, which is what lets management actually check if their workers know how to use hazardous machinery without hurting themselves. Let's zoom in on WHS committees for a second. A committee shouldn't just be a bunch of higher-ups in suits. It absolutely has to include staff from all different departments. We're talking your audio engineers, your post-production editors, your floor managers. Consulting directly with the workers leverages the fact that they are in the trenches every day. They're going to catch those near misses way before they turn into real injuries. Maybe a server rack is running way too hot, or the stairs leading down to the studio are a bit loose. The people using them every single day are going to know first. It spreads the responsibility around and really cultivates a shared culture where everyone owns safety. And then we have signage. Let's be totally honest, if you slap up a dense 50-page written policy, it is going to be completely ignored by almost everyone. But internationally recognized graphical signage, like a massive, bold, yellow caution sign right outside a high-voltage server room, that completely bypasses any literacy or language barriers. It guarantees immediate hazard comprehension for literally anyone walking by, including temporary visitors on set. Jumping into Section 4, controlling multimedia hazards and specific industry risks. Now that we've got a solid culture of safety brewing, let's talk about systematically controlling the physical hazards.
But before we just start listing them off, we need the actual framework to fix them. Enter the hierarchy of control. This stepped approach right here is your systematic formula for hazard reduction. You always start at the top with the absolute best option, elimination, and you work your way down to PPE as an absolute last resort. If you can eliminate the hazard completely, you do it. If you can't, you substitute it for something safer. Next down is engineering controls to physically isolate people from the hazard, then administrative controls to change the actual way people work, and finally, at the very bottom, personal protective equipment like safety glasses, which is always your weakest line of defense.
So let's apply that exact hierarchy directly to the multimedia industry. Notice how we are completely ditching generic building site hazards like hard hats? Instead, we're heavily contextualizing our answers with things like high-density electrical infrastructure and digital workstation ergonomics. If you're scheduled to film on a busy, dangerous street, eliminate the risk entirely. Shoot it on a closed set with a replica intersection instead. Dealing with electrical hazards from those massive rendering servers? Substitute the risk by enforcing routine test and tagging to the AS/NZS 3760 standard. Use engineering controls, like installing cable trays for all your studio lighting rigs so nobody trips and cracks their head open. And since editors literally sit all day long, bring in height-adjustable sit-to-stand desks to stop biomechanical stress and avoid those nasty long-term repetitive strain injuries. Top that off with an administrative control, like software prompts mandating the 20-20-20 screen break rule to fight off optic muscle fatigue. That, right there, is exactly how you speak the examiner's language.
Finally, Section 5, the Band 6 formula for nailing that extended response.
Okay, let's tie this whole thing together and look at the actual anatomy of a top-tier, exemplary response. When an extended response asks you to explain strategies that could be implemented to improve safety, and you want those full 10 marks, your answer has to be highly structured and incredibly easy to scan. You need to drop current legislative terms like PCBU, which stands for Person Conducting a Business or Undertaking, instead of using outdated, simple words like boss. You want to sound like an industry pro. Throw in phrases like reasonably practicable. Use bold subheadings and bullet points so the marker can instantly see your logic. Whatever you do, don't just write a massive, unreadable wall of text. But listen, the absolute most important part of this whole checklist is your strict use of the explain verb. This is the ultimate secret sauce right here. You absolutely must explicitly link your specific strategy directly to a tangible safety improvement. The word explain literally means cause and effect. You cannot just list a strategy and move on. First, you state the strategy, enforcing routine electrical test and tagging for studio lighting. Then, you hit them with the exact safety improvement. This proactively identifies faulty grounding or damaged internal insulation before a failure occurs, eliminating the hazard of electrical fires or catastrophic worker shocks. See that? Strategy leads to safety improvement. The cause leads directly to the effect. If you do that for every single point you make, you're golden.
So we've unpacked the catastrophic legal and financial stakes of noncompliance, we've broken down measuring severity and likelihood for risk assessments, shifting the culture through committees in visual signage, the hierarchy of control for specific multimedia hazards, and finally, that crucial Band 6 formula of linking your strategy to a real improvement. I want you to take a look around your own workstation right now and honestly ask yourself, are you leaving easy exam marks sitting on the table? If an examiner walked into your room right this second, what hazards would they spot? And even more importantly, using all the vocabulary we just went through, how would you explain the exact strategy to fix them? Start practicing that mindset today, and you are absolutely going to crush your WHS responses.